State Representative Jim Struzzi is on the line with us this morning. We're conversing under the auspices of Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. Jim, good morning.
Good morning, Todd.
Hey, it's good to have you with us here today. You told us last week when you were here on the program that Tuesday would be a big day for your House bill that had to do, in a narrow sense, with the RGGI regulations, but in a much broader and I think more important sense with executive orders and governor's power. We talked on a different plane with Senator Pittman last hour about pretty much the same topic, and that is whether governors have the power that Governor Wolf is executing right now. So yesterday was a big step for your bill, wasn't it?
Well, it certainly was. My bill, House Bill 2025, was voted out of the Environmental Resources Committee, and it will now move to a vote on the House floor when we return on the 22nd, I believe. It was a big step forward. And as you said, this bill is about more than the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. It's about executive power and circumventing the legislature to basically move forward with a plan unilaterally that affects the entire state. And that was really my argument yesterday when I presented before the committee, that one person is making these decisions for the entire Commonwealth that affects every corner of Pennsylvania, yet they have not reached out to the legislature for any sort of input. And we represent the people. We are the voice of the people. Joe and I for Indiana County, obviously, and Representative Dush and Pyle. And when you invoke an executive order to enter into a multi-state pact like that has the potential to be so detrimental to our statewide economy, particularly Indiana County, I think it behooves the leader to work with the legislature before entering into any sort of pact like that. So that is essentially what House Bill 2025 will do. It will require that before any multi-state pact like RGGI is entered into, it has to move to the legislature first. That means it has to go through committee. It has to go for a vote on the House floor so that every voice in Pennsylvania can be heard. And that's, I think, essential, Todd.
That multi-state aspect of it is very, very important here because it enters in, but there's really no exit out of such a thing like that because the ramifications are, as you told us last week, a plant like Homer City Generating Station probably would close down within a year and others would close down and those jobs would never come back.
And I've already heard that if RGGI is enacted, Homer City will close in 2021, and we simply cannot allow that to happen. I understand the environmental concerns and that people, want to do something for the environment, and I'm all for that, but this is not it. This will essentially crush our local economy. And when you think about the bigger aspects of what RGGI really is, our energy portfolio will be controlled essentially by a firm in New York. People don't really, I think, understand what this RGGI plan will do. And the other side of it is, why do we punish industries? Why don't we incentivize industries?
Yeah.
And it's going to push. They call it leakage. It's going to push our Pennsylvania to become an energy importer, whereas right now, we provide energy to the entire East Coast. And when we enter into RGGI, God forbid, but if we enter into RGGI, Todd, all of our energy industry, all of our jobs are going to go to Ohio and West Virginia, where they don't have RGGI and they're not even considering RGGI. And I've also heard from numerous people in the energy industry that they have already decided to invest millions and millions of dollars in other states because of the threat of RGGI and other energy decentralizing initiatives like severance tax. So when you think big picture, I can't understand why the governor is considering this still, even after 2 DEP advisory committees voted to not move it forward. They're simply not listening. And I was asked yesterday by a Harrisburg news outlet, what if this does get through and the governor vetoes it? And simply stated, that means once again he's ignoring the voice of the people. And I don't mean to badmouth the governor, but clearly, if he continues to move forward with this RGGI plan after a majority vote in the Senate, after a majority vote in the House, he's clearly not listening to the voice of us who represent the people of Pennsylvania.
So that damage has already started from the RGGI regulations, just in the fact of speculation that that some companies are making. You made a big point yesterday, and you've done so here today as well, about the voice of the people. So what are some of those voices? What are you hearing from folks about the possibility of RGGI, beyond the fact that obviously the industries themselves, those directly involved in them, are very much against such a bill or such a compact? What are you hearing from others?
About a month or so ago, Todd, the Indiana County Center for Economic Operations put together a virtual press conference, and I believe Josh listened to that.
Yeah.
We heard from people who work at the power plants, people who work in the industry. We heard from our local school districts. Think about the impacts if those power plants close. You're talking millions and millions of dollars, upwards around $750 million in tax dollars that will be lost from the Homer Center School District. You're talking about thousands of jobs. You're talking about all the ancillary businesses that work in the coal industry and the fossil fuel industry. You're talking about all those jobs being lost. And those voices are speaking out, and they're speaking out very loudly, including the labor unions. So I can't fathom why they would want to continue to move forward with this initiative. I think that when you look at the big picture again, you have to balance, environmental concerns with economic concerns and the livelihood of people who are already suffering after this pandemic, people who are still trying to collect unemployment, and now you throw this other threat of taking away additional livelihood. It doesn't make sense to me now or ever, really. But that's essentially, I think you can tell I'm a little frustrated.
Yeah, we can. The governor's climate action plan, we're already meeting those particular guidelines, the EPA guidelines as well. And we can sense in your voice the frustration with something such as this. And those ramifications are long-term. But just as we close our time together, once more, make the point, if you would, about executive orders, their power, whether there should be such a thing as an executive order, and what limitations should be placed on them.
Well, I think there's a place for executive orders, but I think the executive orders should come with the cooperation and discussion with our House and Senate leaders. Throughout this pandemic and with the RGGI initiative, that has not occurred. And that, I think, is not how our government is supposed to be structured. We are three equal branches of government, and when the governor issues executive orders without discussing them at all with us, without discussing them at all with the industries that are affected, without considering all of the different aspects of how this is going to affect our Commonwealth, I think that is very short-sighted, and it does not help us long-term in the future. We have to think about Pennsylvania as a whole. We have to think about everyone who would be affected. And Todd, that's why I was elected. That's why my other House members were elected. That's why the Senate members were elected, to represent the people of Pennsylvania from every corner, north, south, east, and west. And if you choose to not listen to those voices and not have them as part of the discussion, I think you're doing a disservice to the people of the Commonwealth. Your
bill now goes to the full House for consideration, and we'll watch that unfold before us. Besides the administration, are there anybody, or are there others who are pushing back on it?
There are some groups, not necessarily from our side of the state. Some environmental groups. I'm sure you're aware of some of them, but the vast majority I've heard from are people that are more concerned with the economy and the jobs that will be lost. Because, I've spoken with numerous professionals, scientists, people, that deal with air quality and climate change, and the impact of Pennsylvania entering into RGGI. Really, they can't even quantify it right now because it's so uncertain. But one thing they do know for sure is the economic impacts. And so I think, as I said earlier, where is the balance? And I don't think they're looking for that balance. I think they're very narrow-minded and one-sided, and that's very unfortunate. So I'm really terrified if this moves forward.
Representative Jim Struzzi in the arena in Harrisburg, and there right now, as a matter of fact. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, Todd.
All right, we'll see you.